All right, response video to the economics guru, Nick, the modern mystic, who I sometimes do disagree with, and in this instance, yes, I do disagree. In his last video, he pointed to an idiotic Ron Paul video from 1988 and said, it explains it all. It explains exactly why we're in this horrible crisis, and implies, well, he doesn't say a solution, but that there was advisory talk in that 1988 video, and there was crap in that video. It's a Ron Paul video. It's a man who has no credibility, a man who can't even accept evolution as a reality, and we're supposed to take him seriously, and I'm supposed to take Nick's credibility seriously when he attempts to pile all the ills of what's happening, the economic bullshit, on fractional reserve banking, on the Federal Reserve Bank. Just a pile of crap. We haven't been fleeced by international bankers into bankruptcy. Okay, yes, certainly they've taken advantage. Certainly the rich have gotten richer. But they've gotten richer through deliberate policy that made them richer. It had nothing to do with the Federal Reserve. Nothing whatsoever to do with the Federal Reserve. If you look at fractional reserve banking, which is basically going to a system that isn't fixed on some commodity, it's basically kept, it's regulated the monetary system, and in that sense it's prevented the chaos that we existed in before then, which was great inflation and deflation, because the commodity price, gold or whatever you base the currency on, would have fluctuations in its value. It could be manipulated. So, you know, this is just bullshit. What was ruined our economy is borrowing. Okay, borrowing, because the borrowing was $10 trillion. I mean, you can't pay it back. So basically every dollar bill has been mortgaged out of its value. I mean, a hunk of its value has been destroyed by that boulder that's hanging over it. And the other doom was deregulation. And this is all Reaganomics here. We're just going right back. This was a 1988 video, ironically. And Ron Paul, who was then in 1988 pooping a little bit on Reaganomics, in his recent run for the presidency, was using pictures of him and Reagan together as part of his political propaganda. See, I'm a Reaganomics fan. I'm a Reaganite. I'm a supporter of the Reagan era. And the Reagan era is exactly what created this bullshit, the voodoo economics of Ronald Reagan. We went from tax and spend to borrow and spend. That was the philosophy, the deliberate change in policy. And we deregulated everything, including banking. And it was exactly then that it then became legal and appropriate for everything to be collateralized by nothing. Okay, I mean, value became arbitrary. You could just make it up, essentially. And so a lot of borrowing took place collateralized on shit. And you can't get away with that forever. I mean, what went wrong with this system didn't happen 50 years ago. It happened 30 years ago. All right, we can put it right, or 20 years ago. We can put it right in Ronald Reagan's lap, his dead lap. And we can put it in the lap of the moron American people who bought the little crayon drawings of shiny cities and, you know, super plastic protection domes and all the other bullshit they bought. This happy land where they could, you know, have everything and pay nothing for it. And that's what Reagan basically promised. And it was bullshit. It was a lie, and people knew it. And they bought into it anyway, because that's all. They're just the nature of the beast again. The short-term self-interest is always going to be more compelling than the long-term save the future kind of thing. And that's where the whole attitude changed. Okay, so we destroyed the wage base in this country. We went to an exploitive international economy. And we basically have, you know, changed the dynamics. So now most dollars are in the hands of rich people. They own them. And so that's part of this devaluation. Not only is the money mortgaged $10 trillion in debt, it's also, in a sense, destroyed for most people, because it's basically now the king's dollar or the nobleman's dollar, okay, because they own most of them. All right, so they you know, the average person isn't going to see much value in owning a commodity that is in the hands of the rich, and that's what we've changed the world into. The rich own most of this currency, and so the currency in the hands of the average person isn't going to be worth shit. So anyway, it's just so irritating to have to go back to this stupid argument. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with fractional reserve banking. I mean, it's good for an economy. Let's just spell it out a little clearer. I mean, there's other ways of doing it, but this wasn't a terrible way as long as you regulated it. I would have just taken all the private interest out of the system and made the bank not a collection of private banks, but whatever. I mean, I'm a socialist, so obviously I would do things in the social interest, not in the interest of some private enterprise bastards. So I'm certainly not going to say it was a perfect way to do it. But the bottom line is, if we didn't make money cheap, if we didn't make it affordable for the average person to borrow money, I mean, our country would be it would be backward, all right? Because people wouldn't have been able to buy houses. We'd be living in a country where everybody be a renter, because the rich would be the only people able to borrow money. They'd be the only ones who could pay the premium, because money would have such a high value. And it was only through fractional reserve banking, through controlling money supply, that you made it possible for more lending to take place. And that means that more people could start their own business. It means that more people could they could invest themselves in a home rather than being renters. And so it did a lot of great and good things. And unfortunately, we just handed it over. We broke it, so rich people could get richer. And that's all that happened, really. I mean, it's not any more complicated than that. The whole Reagan era was designed to do nothing else. The big whine and complain was that, here, we have this horrible Carter malaise. The country's disabled by uncertainty and caution, and we'll fix all that by making the rich richer. And that's all it was really about. We're going to rise all the boats. I mean, of course, the first boats up are going to be the rich yachts. Okay, but you're all coming up. Yeah, that's right. Even though theoretically you can't really rise an ocean, that was the illusion, the delusion. The only way the rich got richer was because somebody else had to get poorer, and the poor was the destruction of the middle class, and Reagan wiped them out completely. So anyway, I'm just kind of discouraged that Nick would, even Ron Paul. I mean, even one of the old lines, he called Oliver North an American hero. I mean, come on. The guy was a liar. He subverted the United States Constitution, and he calls him an American hero. I mean, how can people like that have any credibility? I mean, they're obviously just propagandists. It's just disgusting. So anyway, so the whole point I'm going to make, the argument I'm going to make, it wasn't not having a gold standard. We didn't not have a gold standard for a long time. I mean, some of this stuff started in 1913, some of it started in the 1800s, this regulating of the monetary system. And it worked in a lot of ways, at a lot of times, very frickin' well. And it wasn't until we just sit there and destroyed the rules, wiped out the rules, that the whole thing broke down. And that really happened under Ronald Reagan. And remember, Ron Paul also ran on, killing the income tax. And he says in that stupid 88 video, that, oh, well, he wouldn't get rid of the Federal Reserve because it wouldn't be practical, and blah, blah, blah. And here he runs in 2008, suggesting we just abolish the income tax, the one progressive tax left in America. So whatever, Nick, I'm obviously you're living up to your banner suggestion that you are just a capitalist pig, because this was just capitalist pig rhetoric, this video. It was libertarian nonsense that if Ron Paul had been in control, we'd go down the crapper even faster. All right, because he would just give all the power to the rich, period. So, fuck you. Fuck this stupid suggestion. I mean, you said, oh, it's only 47 minutes of your time. Well, it was a waste of 47 minutes. Except for the last 2 minutes, which was kind of interesting because it was kind of a guy just ragging on Ronald Reagan. And like I said, it really is quite ironic considering that Ron Paul politically thought it was in his interest to run, suggesting he was a good pal of Ronald Reagan's and his policies. So anyway, fuck it. We are doomed, but we're not doomed because of the Federal Reserve. We're doomed because people decided it was a good idea to borrow money. That's simple. They said, yes, borrow more money. I want all my services. I don't want to pay any taxes. That's why we're fucked. It's because people invested in their short-term interest. They mortgaged their children's guts. They basically pulled out their kids' guts, took an assessment and said, yes, I'm going to mortgage the hell out of my child's welfare, their future, because I want now.